Hey everyone, it is me, I'm Megan. I am back. I'm back to give you more valuable TEFL information that you all have been looking for. So we're just going to wait a second or two. I'm going to have the lovely Rosie join us, and Rosie's going to tell us all about TEFL jobs and where to find them. Believe it or not, this is something we get asked a lot, and I suppose because we work with TEFL and with TEFL teachers, we actually kind of forget that a lot of people don't know this information. So we've decided to host a bite-sized 15-minute webinar just to give you all that information, all the information you need, because why are you doing a TEFL course if you don't know how to find a TEFL job? Simple. So we're going to connect those two for you, and it's going to be an amazing webinar. So just stay tuned while we wait for Rosie. Not yet? No, that's okay. And if you're watching, please let me know where you're watching from. Please let me know in the comments below. And throughout the webinar, we'll actually be posting useful links that Rosie speaks about. So you'll be able to check out those links after the webinar or during the webinar as well, whichever way you want to do it. A bit about myself. My name is Megan. I work with marketing here in Premier TEFL and a community manager. So whenever you mention us on Instagram, please follow us. You'll see lots of really great content. Whenever you find us on Instagram, I'm the person commenting back. I'm the one liking, engaging in conversation. I'm always asking things in our Instagram stories. So if you're not following us yet, do follow us. So I can share your answers in the rest of the TEFL world. And it looks like Rosie has just joined us, so let's get this started. Bear with me now. Technology is our best friend, eh? Let's add Rosie in again. Okay, just a bit of technical difficulties. I'm sure existing TEFL teachers know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, hi Rosie, are you going to join us? Let's try again. So Rosie can't join us right now, but we're still waiting. She is working on it. If you have any questions before the webinar that you want us to cover, do pop them in the comments, in the comment section, and we will get around to it. That's no problem. In fact, we encourage questions. We're successful. We are live, we're rocking.
Hi Megan, thank you.
Hi Rosie, how are you? Thanks for joining us today.
Good. A pleasure as always. And thanks for bearing with me when I was pressing the button. It wasn't quite letting me join.
No problem at all. In fact, I was like, there's another few seconds to promote TEFL before you joined. So Rosie, give us a quick background as to who you are, and then we'll get right into the webinar.
Of course, no problem. And some of our viewers will probably know me already from previous live videos, but I am Rosie Mansfield, Managing Director of Premier TEFL, and I've been in the TEFL industry since 2006, so it's my 15th year this year. And I think that's a testament to the industry that we're in, that you can get up every day, every working day, and still be excited to talk about TEFL, to help teachers get certified. And obviously the dream is, of course, getting out there abroad to be able to teach English.
That's great. Thank you so much, Rosie. So today's webinar, as you're aware, Rosie, is about TEFL jobs and where to find them. And I was just mentioning there, just before you joined us, that I suppose we take for granted all this knowledge we have about TEFL jobs, what you need to prepare for a TEFL job, what you need to find it. And it's just something that I suppose we don't always think about just because we know it. And we figured, let's close that gap for people. Let's share everything we know with everyone who's looking to get TEFL certified, those currently on the journey, or those who just got their certification and need some assistance finding that TEFL job. So Rosie, tell us, TEFL jobs, what are they? How do we get them? Where do we find them?
Okay. And I'm happy to share the story because it's an easy one to answer, which is great. But you're right, not everybody knows instantly, and how would they, how to find a TEFL job. If you've just started on your TEFL journey, and you're overwhelmed by your choice of courses at this point, the next hurdle for you is obviously thinking about, how am I going to get hired? Who is going to hire me? Or, you know, can I teach freelance on my own? So these are big questions, and you're right, we want to answer them for people. So I suppose if I roll back to when I first got into TEFL back, like I said, in 2006, the internet was not on our phones. It was not in our homes even, really. And the access that I had to the internet typically was in the lunch canteen. And so when I was finished for work or on break or something, then I had use of a computer, a desktop computer that was connected to the internet. And even back then, the internet was your best friend, as it is today, when it comes to finding a TEFL job. Because typically, if you think about it, and we're thinking about schools overseas at the minute, okay? We're not thinking about teaching online, but if you want to travel abroad and teach English overseas, then schools have to advertise online. They can't advertise in a local newspaper or in a community notice board for the most part. They need to attract people to apply from overseas to that country. And so since day dot, when the internet was available, that was the sort of the golden opening for schools to be able to recruit from overseas more easily. I mean, my earliest memory really is that we used to buy a book every year, about this thick, and it was about teaching English abroad, and it was a glossary that you'd buy every year of language schools around the world. And so in 15 years, we have come so far, I'm glad to say, which makes it so much easier for all of our graduates to find jobs nowadays. And some of the best and the biggest TEFL job websites that were around in those early days are still around today, and so that's great news. The top three were always TEFL.com, ESLBase.com, and Dave's ESL Cafe, and that's ESLcafe.com is the main name for that one. Now, since then, there's been an explosion, of course. There's hundreds and hundreds of TEFL job websites, and we ourselves even have our own, as you well know, GoCambio.com. And that's because when you have been in the industry as long as we have, you have a massive network around the world of schools, recruiters, and people who you know are to be good employers and that you've previously vetted before. And so it makes perfect sense that a really good TEFL provider would also have either their own jobs board or their own recruitment website where you can go ahead and do your certification, and then all under the one roof, go ahead and get your TEFL job too. Now, the other advancement, I suppose, is that Facebook groups are huge now, and there are dozens and dozens of either teach online or abroad Facebook groups that are very active. And by joining a bunch of those groups, you'll start to see daily the amount of jobs that are available. And the interesting thing about TEFL, and I've said this before, is that it is an industry unlike others whereby people don't get a job contract and then that's them for life, okay? It's typically industry contract based, 6 months to a year or 2 years at the outside. And people often either they move on to another country or they move on to another school. So the TEFL industry is always recruiting. There are hundreds of thousands of jobs worldwide, and there's always a recruitment drive on continuously. And that is, I suppose, one of the most beautiful things about it, is that it allows space for entry-level jobs, more experienced jobs, and you can move right on along that journey, no matter what point you're on. So I suppose for anybody starting today, take comfort in the fact that there are lots and lots of places to find TEFL jobs, and we're going to post a whole bunch of these into the comments of this webinar so that you can browse around and research. Now, don't be surprised if you see duplication, you know, if you see one platform advertised on another website, because that's typical. You know, you're going to jump around from website to website and you'll see the same employers recruiting. Whoever is open for positions now, you'll see that all over the internet.
That's great. And I forgot to mention earlier, the lovely Sandra is actually managing the comment section below. So Sandra is the person replying back to you, and Sandra will post links throughout the webinar as well. So I can see she just posted, so make sure you click just to find all those webinar links just down below, or sorry, not webinar links, the recruitment job site links just within that comment. And Rosie, you mentioned about teaching abroad, which we'll go on to a bit later now. But first, I want to ask you, what do you actually need to get hired for a TEFL job?
Okay, good question. Probably should have started with that one. But I think again, I'm kind of doing a broad spectrum from original days to modern days and things like that. And not a lot has changed in that, okay? If you're a fluent English speaker, and if you have at least a high school education and a TEFL certificate, those are the three core things that you need to become a TEFL teacher. And I think it's only fair and right to say, because most people will know this if you do a little bit of research, employers will often look for a native English speaker, and in some cases they'll look for degree qualified too. I'll go into why that is in a minute too. But we know from being in this industry for so long that it's not just a one-horse race. It's not just for native English speakers, not just for people who have degrees, but you do have to fight a bit harder if you're a fluent English speaker and English isn't your first language, or you don't hold a passport from a native English speaking country. However, I mean, we see it all the time, not only with our job partners, with our internships, and with our students and graduates here. You don't have to have English as your first language to be an excellent teacher. And sometimes people would say that if you've already stood in the shoes of an English learner, then you know exactly what you need to be an excellent teacher. So those are the basics. You need to have a fluent level of English. You need to have at least a high school education. So we need you to be educated to at least 18, all right? And then also to have your TEFL certification. Within the TEFL world, things have changed a bit in the last couple of years. The industry standard for getting hired was always 120 hours. And if you had more than that, then it was a bonus. What we're seeing now is that in the last sort of 3 years or so, with the introduction of the Ofqual regulated level 5 online course, which is your CELTA equivalent course, we're seeing that a lot of employers are now shifting over to look for that as their industry standard. So I think if you're serious about getting hired and you want to get hired for the best jobs and you want to get hired faster, then look at the level 5 course range, because the little bit of investment required to do that course will stand to you in your TEFL career, and it will pay you dividends in your paycheck.
And Rosie, I like within the TEFL circles, I hear getting teaching practicum is a hot topic. Can you tell us a bit more about that and how that might help someone stand out? I suppose, especially with the announcement on the China's policy on private ESL tutoring, is teaching practicum something that you would suggest people to put into their tool belt?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a shift. Practicum, or what we call teaching practice, okay, it was always important. It used to be that you could get your TEFL certificate and be a brand new teacher, and there'd be those entry-level jobs there for you with no experience, okay? You get the lower end of the pay scale, but that's you hopping onto the ladder, and that's you starting. It's like anybody, when you come out of either an apprenticeship or a university degree, you know, it's unlikely that you're going to have too much experience at that moment. So sort of in the industry right now, what's happening right now is that we've seen that practicum is being requested more and more from employers. So the stakes are raising a little bit, and that's why we have spent the last few months putting together organised practicum for our graduates, and that you do that with real ESL students, and you can do it online. So it's part-time, it's 4 hours a week, but it gives you that certified teaching practicum so that you can tick that box when you're applying online for jobs. And the other side of it is it helps you to get better pay, you know, and let's jump up the ladder a little bit when you're getting on. Why not get the best pay that you possibly can for the experience that you can get? And you mentioned the change in the Chinese policy. Yeah. How that's affecting the industry right now is that we saw a lot of people teaching online for the last 2 years. It was happening already. It was growing. 2009, it was already exploding. But with the pandemic, nearly everybody had to shift online, whether you were working for a specific bricks and mortar school or whether you were already teaching for an online platform. So China recently in June released a new policy where they want to essentially deduplicate education. So if students are taught a subject, a curriculum-based mainstream subject in school, the Chinese don't want their children to be educated in private lessons after school in the same subject. They're trying to free up a bit of space for their children. So English does come in under that remit. as would, you know, maths and geography and different things. So it does impact the ESL industry, which means that we've seen a wave of experienced teachers come back onto the job market, okay? And that's just happened in the last 8 weeks. So for anybody that we talk to now who's thinking about getting TEFL certified, that's why we're saying jump onto the practicum as well as your theory-based certificate, because when you come out there into the job market, you're going to be up against other teachers who've probably been teaching English online for Chinese platforms or teaching Chinese students for the last year or so, and you need to be able to compete with those people.
Well, that's really interesting. I suppose there's a lot of demand right now so for online teaching, and I suppose even more teaching practicum, because you want to stand out as much as you can entering the TEFL job market if it is your first time, because you're competing with so many experienced teachers. So we spoke a lot about teaching online, and it is, I suppose there is a kind of barrier for some people that it can be a bit scary and a bit daunting if they're not used to speaking directly to the camera and not getting an immediate response from the person in front of them. Is there any opportunities for those looking to teach in person, or maybe they're a bit nervous to start teaching online? Is there anything else that they could do instead?
For sure. And I think that we have to say that no matter how much time you spend training in TEFL, your first day is always the first day in the classroom, and you're going to make a mess. I can guarantee it. Okay, it's par for the course, but that is the real day that you become a TEFL teacher, is when you either stand up in front of a classroom, a bricks and mortar classroom, or even stand up in front of your laptop and start teaching. That is, you know, you've got your certificate, but it's, for me, that's when it really becomes real, of course. But yeah, of course, we have the paid internships on our website that people can do if they feel like, I want more than sort of 30 hours of teaching practicum. I want a little bit more time to get into the role of being a TEFL teacher, and I want a little bit more support. And I think that's more popular now, Megan, than it was in 2019 and even just the early 2020, is because at that stage we had seen sort of a rise and fall in the interest in fully organised paid TEFL internships abroad, which are single semester programs. And I think that people were, and it does happen in the travel industry, that we see sort of peaks and troughs and interest in different things, that people were very much focused on just getting regular jobs at that time. And we saw a fall in interest in some of our internships. But now, because of the intricacy of travel and with the worries about being abroad, and because of COVID, of course, the interest in our internships is phenomenal right now. And so for people who either want extended teaching practice, or they want a group experience, or they get an instant community abroad, or whether they just want extra security that there's a team behind them in Premier TEFL and on the ground, then our paid TEFL internships are probably the best way to start your TEFL career. And even now we are recruiting, and we have some placements open in Argentina, we have South Korea. We're about to open our new semester for Chiang Mai in Northern Thailand, and I think there's one place available for Cambodia, and so there's a lot happening. It's not on the scale that it was in 2019, but there's a lot of stuff happening right now. Travel is possible, and testament to that is probably our Instagram page, where you can see our recent group of interns who arrived out to Thailand to do their 2-week in-classroom TEFL training before their 5-month teaching internship. And I think, you know, the idea of quarantining right now, in my mind, has definitely been shifted once I saw the sandbox quarantine that's happening down there at the minute. And so yeah, if you're interested to see what it's like to teach in Thailand right now, the guys are sharing a lot of images on our Instagram. And thanks to you, Megan, for keeping all those images and videos coming.
I'm actually living my life through them, believe it or not. I actually met with one of them yesterday, Kyla. I met with Kyla on Instagram Live yesterday, so if you didn't get a chance to see that, head on over to Instagram at Premier TEFL and view that. I asked her about the sandbox quarantine, which is basically like a mini holiday before orientation, which is crazy, but they've been deep sea diving, they've been exploring, visiting ancient temples, they've just been lounging around drinking cocktails and smoothies. They're having an absolute great time, and it's 1,000 times better than a quarantine hotel, I can tell you that much, and they agree. So Rosie, for people who are TEFL certified, and is there anything Premier TEFL can offer them in assistance looking for TEFL jobs or preparing for interviews, demo videos and things like that?
There's a ton of resources on our website, and I think that my favorite ones would be the video masterclass. So if you're applying for a TEFL job, the first place that you start is you start with a relevant CV or a resume. You need to go to whatever you have already saved in the Word document or in Canva or wherever it is, and you need to look at this specifically for a TEFL job. So even if you don't have experience, you need to think about the transferable skills that a teacher needs to have. So time management, you need to be able to present, the presentation skills, public speaking, you need to be organized. You think about all the skills that a teacher has, and then demonstrate in your CV how you have those, even though you might not be a qualified teacher already, or you might not have experience in the past of teaching. Also, take out anything that is extra noise. So a resume should only be 2 pages long. And so if you have a bunch of jobs listed on there that add no value whenever you're applying for a TEFL job, take them off or summarize them, so that whenever you apply to your recruiter, the worst thing that they can do is be sitting there and nearly feel like they've got a highlighter and they're searching for the information that's relevant. Okay, make it easy for the employer to hire you. Make your CV very, very concise and relevant for teaching, and put a cover letter with it. The amount of CVs that we see and there's no cover letter, and so the cover letter is a chance for you to sell yourself and for you to put that little embellishment in about information about yourself, about why you should be hired by this either company or school. So get your cover letter, make it relevant, name the school you're applying to, do research, you know, and then don't send out 60 CVs in the one day, because when you get invited for interview, you want to know exactly what school is inviting you, so that you don't have to say, sorry, what job is that again? Sorry, what company is that? And also, it's like any job, really. You know, it's not special where people are going to come beating your door to hire you. You need to follow up, and you might need to phone, or you might need to, you know, send a follow-up email and ask for that Skype introduction, something like that. Be courageous and step out and really show that you want this job. Okay. On average, TEFL jobs get hundreds of applicants, and so when the employer sits down, the director of studies or whoever it is that's managing that, it's usually a headache. So just make their life as easy as possible. And a lot of times now, people will ask you to record a self-tape introduction or a mini lesson. So one of the favorite resources I have on Premier TEFL's website is a video about how to make a demo lesson. And it breaks it all down for you on how to make a very good intro video that shows you teaching, showcase your skills essentially. So I think we'll post a link to that into the comments, and I think everybody should sign up to that. I think it's 10 minutes long maximum, but that masterclass is really going to give you a leg up when it comes to applying for jobs. On top of that, we actually have coaching with Matt, so you can book in to come to is it 2 hours, Megan, remind me, but Matt runs the coaching sessions, and he actually takes you through in a small group what it's like to apply for online teaching jobs. And I think we've got a class tomorrow with Matt, and then we've got another class on the 23rd of September. So if you're struggling to find a TEFL job right now and you're looking for online teaching gigs, then coming to Matt's masterclass, his power hours he calls it, that is a game changer for a lot of people.
Absolutely, and those are all wise words and wise advice. But if there's anything that you haven't covered, Rosie, in this short webinar, we invite people to email info@premiertefl.com. You can give us a call, schedule a call back at the time, whatever suits you best, or contact us right on the website in the live chat. We're here to answer all questions. Rosie, we're just going to have a quick look through the comments section and see if there are anything burning questions from people. So a lot of hellos. Trisky, welcome back. I remember you from our previous webinar. You love all my dancing. Thanks very much. I love to dance. Sharon, hello. Let's see now. There's a lot of agreement in the comment section, Rosie, about what you've said, and you know, they also see that it's a bit more competitive as well with the way things are, especially after China's announcement. All agreement. We're definitely on the right track, and we're Rosie. Everyone's in the same boat.
Meg, it might be a good time to even talk about, like, if people are finding it competitive right now to get hired by another platform and you have a bit of a teaching experience, I would actually encourage people to set up their own freelance independent platform profile. Okay, so, and we have talked a little bit about this before, but for people who don't know, there are at least 2 different types of online teaching platform. There's one where you sign up and essentially the company gives you the students and the schedule, and you sign on at the right time and you teach lessons that are often provided for you. So that the company wants consistency, that's why they do that. They give you all the lesson plans and materials. The other type of platform, and this is where it gets really interesting in my opinion, is that you create your own profile and you list all of your own specialisms or your expert areas. Now, you can either study expert areas like teaching exam English, like IELTS, or you can look at what your previous career has been in and then draw from that. So if you were an engineer or you were a lawyer or whatever it is, if you work in hospitality, then you can flip that into your TEFL career and then become an expert at teaching English for tourism, or teaching English for international trade or banking or whatever that might be. So think about your own life and where you have expertise and bring that into your TEFL tutoring. And I can tell you, that's where the hourly rate really goes up. And you can see people jumping from $25 an hour right up to $100 an hour plus for very specific types of teaching. It might even be that you teach accent neutralization. Jesus, I can't even say myself. But you know, to get an accent to be a neutral English spoken accent, that can be really tricky. And that is really at the upper end of advanced English teaching. And that's the last piece of the puzzle for a lot of fluent English speakers. And that's also where they're willing to pay that little bit more for a 30-minute session or a 40-minute session, because they're really perfecting their skill at that point. So I think that you know, for a lot of people, if they've had experience and they're now looking for other jobs because their own Chinese platform has either closed or they're not giving extra hours right now, look at Preply, look at Cambly, and even start researching on LinkedIn to try and find people that you may be able to teach English to. But build your own profile and your own brand. It's not as hard as it seems. And then start thinking about how much is that lesson worth, and put it into a 10-pack or a 5-pack. Okay, so selling lessons one by one is going to be a hard slog all the time. But if you put a 5 or 10-pack lesson together, your own curriculum for teaching a specific subject, a specific specialism, then you can put a much higher price tag on that. You've got your students booked in, and then you can actually relax a small bit and you can see a pipeline of lessons there. So I would really encourage people to do that. And actually, an expert in this area is joining us for our next webinar, Teacher Kid Canada. And this guy, wow, he's going to blow the socks off people. You know, if you think what I'm saying makes sense, wait until you hear him speak. It's a couple of weeks' time. Meg, is it the 23rd also? I think it's the 23rd.
Yeah, 23rd of September, yeah.
Perfect. And so it's going to be 3 p.m. Irish or UK time, which makes it 10 p.m. Beijing time, and I guess it's probably mid-morning East Coast time. We'll get all the times out there, I'm sure. But the Teacher Kid Canada, he's been with us before and he's going to come back. He runs his own Facebook group for highly paid independent freelance teachers. And what he's going to tell you in the next webinar, wow, that's going to blow the socks off you. You're really going to feel empowered to charge a much higher salary, go independent, and get that bravery behind you to step out, because teaching general English is great and it's in high demand, but it's at the lower end of the pay scale. And once you see that landscape, then you can understand, okay, I can live down here at general English for a while and I can get experience, but then I need to move up into a specialist area.
And if people are looking, they're looking forward to this webinar, but they can't wait to find out more, we actually have a lot of blogs on the website about past Premier TEFL learners who have achieved that success. They are independent. Just recently we met with a person called Ryan. He's living in Thailand. He's from Canada, and he can charge up to $60 per hour if he wanted to, because he started with an online platform and he actually moved to independent. Then he built a bit of a client base and he's now teaching independent in Thailand and he's loving it. So that's all on the website as well. There's also helpful blogs about you know, non-Chinese ESL companies to teach for, more student interviews, and just lots of blogs in the pipeline coming up as well. Rosie, I think it is time for to end the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today and providing your expertise in the TEFL industry and how to find TEFL jobs, how to get hired. And if anybody has any questions, again, feel free to contact us, info@premiertefl.com. Send us a DM right here on Facebook as well, that's no problem. Give us a call, schedule a call back, or even just find us live on the website and we can chat to you. Thank you so much, Rosie. I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, you too, Megan. Bye-bye.
Bye.